one and all, welcome to another instalment from the channel that is Jono's Graveyard Jaunts. Once again, I'm here at Welford Road Cemetery on the outskirts of the city of Leicester, where the person who features in today's video is buried. And she's actually buried in the same plot as her mother and father. Now, the lady who features in today's video is Annie Elizabeth Cook, daughter of the famous travel pioneer Thomas Cook. The name Thomas Cook, up until the liquidation of the company in 2019, after 178 years in business, was for many years synonymous with travel throughout the world. And people of a certain generation will remember the catchphrase used on the adverts for Thomas Cook that used to appear on the television, at least in the United Kingdom, of, and I quote, "Don't just book it, Thomas Cook it."
Now at any Thomas Cook shop and save up to an amazing £50 per person off your summer holiday. Don't just book it, Thomas Cook it.
Now, the first video I made when I started this channel was on Thomas Cook, and I will add that link in the video in the description below in case you may want to view it after this video. And as I mentioned in that video, Thomas Cook's first excursion was from Leicester train station to Loughborough, and that occurred in 1841. Now, the cost of the trip was £1 per person, and 485 people took advantage of the trip for the return journey. Now, in that video I made about Thomas Cook, I made a cursory reference to Annie Cook, who's Thomas's daughter, who was involved in the business from the outset. Now, in today's video, I shall focus entirely on Annie Cook and explain how and why she became such an integral part of the Thomas Cook story, especially in the formative years of the business before her untimely passing at the age of just 35 years old in the house called Thorncroft on London Road that she shared with both Thomas, her father, and her mother Marianne Cook. In today's video, in addition to talking about Annie Cook, I shall visit the house called Thorncroft she lived and died in with her parents on London Road in Leicester. I'm also going to visit the former Temperance Commercial Boarding House, as it was called then, which had a soup kitchen inside of the hotel, and the facade of the building still remains to this day on Granby Street in the city of Leicester, so we'll also visit that. I'm also going to visit Thomas Cook's commercial premises on Gallery Gate in Leicester and show you the 4 terracotta panels charting the evolution of the business located on the outside of the facade of the building. And finally, I'm going to visit the grave of John Mason Cook, who was the son of Thomas and Marianne, and also Annie Cook's grave. Now, they're in separate locations, so I'll show you the relationship in terms of where they sit in the cemetery, and we'll visit those individually. And I'll explain the reasons as to why I think they are buried in separate plots. And if you want to add your comments at the end of the reasons to whether or not you agree with me or you think it was some other reason. And as a conclusion to the video, I shall explain what led to the decline of the business and the ultimate liquidation of Thomas Cook. Now, Annie Cook was born in Leicester on the 21st of June 1845, at a time when her father's travel business was just beginning to take off, following the success of his rail trip to Loughborough in 1841 for a temperance meeting. Now, for those of you who don't know, temperance essentially is an abstinence from alcohol of any kind. Now, in 1843, Thomas moved from King Street to Granby Street, and this was because it was within easy reach of the train station, and this is where he opened the Temperance Commercial Boarding House. And it was here that refreshments could be obtained at any hour of the day, and sleeping accommodation was also provided. This is the original facade of the hotel. As you can see, it's obviously shops at the bottom now, and it's on Granby Street in Leicester, so that's the original hotel. And this is where the very grand hall used to sit. Obviously that was demolished, but they kept the original. I'll put some pictures up so you can cross-reference it. So when you look at the pictures, the grand hall is there, and I'll put a picture up the inside of it, and you can see how grand it is. And this
I believe, was the hotel. Again, I'll put the pictures up so you can cross-reference.
Now, at the time, Annie's mother was doing most of the work, as Annie's father was often away travelling for the temperance movement and organising various trips. Now, the business itself went through various ups and downs, and a major up came in 1855 when Annie was a mere 10 years old, and that was the famous trip to the Great Exhibition. This was to Crystal Palace in London that had just been finished in that year of 1851, and the building itself was designed by Joseph Paxton, and this is where the Great Exhibition was being held. John Mason Cook, Thomas's son, was born in 1834, and he also joined his father in the business. Now, by 1865, they had opened an office in London, and John ran this side of the business, whilst his father escorted travellers around the UK, Europe, and indeed the world. So I think we can safely say that during Annie's early years, her father was not at home a great deal, and that she was soon involved with the running of the Temperance Hotel with her mother. Annie also benefited from a good education and learned to speak fluent French. However, by 1873, cracks were beginning to show in the relationship between John and his father, as simply making money was not enough for Thomas, who always found time for his serious temperance pursuits. And this led to clashes with his single-minded son, who objected to the use of business time and money for his father's, and I quote, pet causes. Now, the final straw came in 1877 when a row broke out that divided the family. John was now married with a family of his own and raged against Thomas and the rest of the family. John in turn accused his mother and sister of making scurrilous remarks about him, and he accused them of falsely stating, and I quote, that his mother and sister had received no benefit from the business since he'd been connected with it. Also that he was killing his father by the criticisms he made of him, plus various other accusations relating to the running of the business. Now, as Annie Cook was fluent in French, she often accompanied her father on his tours of the continent, and he had relied on her to act as an interpreter for him on many occasions. On one occasion, Annie even travelled with him to the Far East. So there was obviously a strong bond between father and daughter. In 1879, Thomas retired from the business, but he was still a very busy man with his temperance pursuits. Now, Annie Cook was active with the Sunday school and a young women's sewing group which met at the chapel on Saturday evenings. It was after Annie attended one of the Saturday evening sewing groups on the 6th of November 1880 that she returned home to Thorncroft in Stonygate, the house that Thomas Cook had built for the family in 1878, complete with all mod cons. Now, after taking supper with her parents, she went upstairs for a bath before retiring to bed. It was now about 11 p.m. when her father last spoke to her, and she was never seen alive again, but was discovered dead in the bath on Sunday morning, and she was just 35 years old.
So this is the house called Thorncroft that Thomas built for his family in 1871, complete with all the mod cons, and I'll zoom in and you can see a really elaborate decoration on the outside. So that's the name of the property there. You can see Thorncroft, and there's a plaque to Thomas. So it was here on the 6th of November 1880. It was a Saturday night. Annie Cook had just finished a sewing class and she walked through that front door there. She had supper with Marianne and Thomas and decided to take a bath after supper. Thomas Cook spoke to her at 11 p.m. that evening, and that was the last time she was seen alive. They found a body in the bath on Sunday morning. So this is the house, as I say, that they lived in. It's beautiful, it's Victorian and it's very ornate. And look at that stonework there. So this was where Annie lived and where Annie Cook sadly died on the 6th of November 1880 at the tender age of just 35 years old. As you can see, the building clearly still exists in its original form, but it is used by Age Concern now. I just wanted to show you because I think it's quite interesting. You can hear the traffic behind me. It is a busy road. It's on London Road if you do want to visit.
It seems that a new patent instantaneous gas water heater had been fitted to the bath, which had only been used 3 times before the fatality occurred. Apparently Annie had complained to an intimate friend that when in the bath she had lost consciousness and that she hardly knew how she had recovered herself. Now this heater was powered by gas, and a byproduct of the gas is the generation of carbon monoxide. Now carbon monoxide is more compatible with the hemoglobin in your blood, and hemoglobin is a protein in your blood that carries oxygen to your body's organs and tissues and transports carbon dioxide from your organs and tissues back to your lungs. Now given the choice therefore, your body would choose carbon monoxide over oxygen, which is both colourless, odourless and is also very poisonous. You will therefore go to sleep very peacefully but not wake up when exposed to carbon monoxide. Now the inquest into Annie's death recorded a verdict of death by drowning. There was no attempt at the inquest to discover why the gas appliance had induced Annie to faint, resulting in her drowning. The appliance was subsequently tested and found to be faulty, and apart from Dr. Henry Lancaster and Thomas Cook, the only other witnesses at the inquest was the intimate friend referred to in the Times as a Mr. A. Aiken Higgins. Now his appearance in the story gave added poignancy, for he and Annie had been secretly engaged. The evidence he offered was reported in the Leicester Chronicle of November the 13th, 1880, where he was described as living at 28 Pocklington's Walk and being a stock and share broker and a general agent. Now the culprit in Annie's death was undoubtedly the water heater, but rumours surfaced that she had committed suicide arising from the unhappy circumstances of her engagement, i.e. her father and brother strongly disagreed with it. Thomas and Marion grieved the loss of their daughter and never recovered really from the devastating loss of Annie. Thomas wanted to keep her memory alive, and Annie had expressed a wish to build a schoolhouse near Archdeacon Lane Chapel where around 900 children attended a Sunday school. Now Thomas in turn went ahead with the project of building a school in Annie's memory. Hi guys, I've chosen this spot because it's literally midpoint between the plot of John Mason Cook, who was the son of Thomas Cook, and obviously the plot of Thomas, Annie his daughter and Marianne his wife. So basically the level you're looking at down the stairs is where John Mason Cook is buried, the son of Thomas. Then I'm going to pan around very slowly and we're going to the highest point of the cemetery, which is just where those trees are in the middle of the screen, and that's where John, Marianne and Annie are buried in one plot. So we'll go to the actual graves themselves so you can see, but obviously the fallout remained until death, in my opinion, because obviously they fell out of the business side of things. So I'm going to walk down the steps now and go to John Mason's Cook's grave, and what we'll do is we'll read the inscription on it. Now you can kind of understand the dilemma. Obviously Thomas, you know, essentially grew the business from nothing, from the ground up, and he was very heavily involved with the temperance movement. So he really had two concerns. Obviously he's trying to make money as a businessman, but also he never forgot his philanthropic and temperance principles. Now John was basically born into the family business, knowing nothing about temperance. So I think this is where the kind of fallout came. So here's John Mason's Cook's grave, and what we'll do is we'll read We'll read the inscription. In loving memory of John Mason Cook, born January the 13th, 1834, died the 4th of March, 1899. So he bringeth them unto their desired haven. Also in loving memory of his wife Emma, born 17th of July, 1834, died February the 10th, 1902. You are at peace. All is well. What we'll do now, guys, and we'll do it live, we'll walk up to the plot where Annie, who sadly passed away at the tender age of 35, is buried with both Thomas and Marianne. So again, we're at Welford Road Cemetery on the outskirts of the city of Leicester, and we're just going up to, it's really the highest point of the cemetery. As I've said before, I'm not sure whether it's, you know, that the higher up you are, the more important you are. Certainly that would appear to be the case at Church Rock Cemetery, where I did a video on Mr. Patchett, who basically designed this cemetery. And again, the very elaborate graves are at the top, and you've got the poor and the downtrodden literally in a sandpit at the bottom of the cemetery. And the reason for that is because, you know, poor people simply didn't have any money, so they got what they got, basically. So we're just walking up this very tree-lined, pleasant area, and we'll get to the grave of Thomas, Marianne and Annie Cook. And these are at this kind of highest level in terms of topography, where we've got the most elaborate, ornate and decorative graves. Now, as you saw earlier on, guys, in the video, at the very start, we had a broken column. Now, the Victorians used this a lot, and it was to signify and denote a life cut short. So at the very start of the video, you might be thinking, well, why is that column broken? And that's really why they do it. But you know, this is quite an amazing cemetery. We'll get to Thomas's grave in a minute with Annie and Marianne, and what you'll see is like there is if you think about a traditional coffin-shaped grave, there's a row of very small concrete pillars, so you recognise the grave immediately. So as I say, this is really the highest point of the cemetery, and here's Thomas's grave now. So it's somewhat overgrown, but we'll get right up to it now, and I'll read the inscription to you. And as I say, we've got Marianne, Thomas and Annie there. So let's just read it from the top. All flesh is grass, the grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of our God shall stand forever. And here's Annie. Let's get a bit closer so we can see. So Annie sadly passed away at the tender age of just 35 at Thorncroft. Annie Elizabeth Cook, born the 21st of June 1845, and we know she died on November the 6th, 1880. And here's Marianne and Thomas, and here's the inscription that we can read. From its humble origins in Leicester, at its peak, Thomas Cook generated over £8 billion worth of sales, with over 19 million customers and over 22,000 members of staff. Now, Thomas Cook's family sold the business in 1928, and there were numerous factors that led to the eventual demise of Thomas Cook, and one of them was a series of acquisitions and mergers in 2008 and 2009 when the world was in recession with a huge banking crisis. The business also bought lots of retail space and shops on the various high streets around the country when people were increasingly shopping online. Now, retail space coupled with high wages was very expensive. Now, this in conjunction with cheaper budget airlines also added to the eventual downfall of the company, with consumers now having much more power of choice in the marketplace. So, on the 20th of September 2019, after 178 years in business, Thomas Cook eventually went into liquidation, owing 1.7 billion to the bank and over 1.3 billion to suppliers. And this led to over 9,000 workers at the company being at risk, with 150,000 holiday makers stranded. So Thomas Cook's legacy: he will always be known as the father of the travel and arguably Leicester's most famous son. It was also very clear that the business would not have reached the dizzy heights it did without Annie Cook's help at the formative stages of the business, not just helping to run things at the Temperance Hotel on Granby Street in Leicester, but also with her professional expertise as an interpreter to her father on his many excursions. Now that concludes the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and obviously add a comment in the comments section.